Ladies and gentlemen, beginning shortly is a panel moderated by former Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist, New Frontiers in Global Health and Economic Development.
When I served as our party's leader in the United States Senate, we worked together to fight global HIV/AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis in Africa, but indeed around the world, in the most vulnerable communities in the globe today. During a time of conflict and terror, we launched a new kind of diplomacy, a diplomacy that's called soft diplomacy, or health diplomacy, or medical diplomacy. Health is that foundation for families and societies to thrive, to flourish, to engage in sustainable economic development. It is the language that crosses all boundaries. Health is, as you'll hear me say again and again, a currency for peace that overpowers division, overpowers hatred. It's built on trust. Knowing all of this, after 9/11, we went to work and we established fundamentally new international programs that we'll talk about today, things like the Millennium Challenge Corporation. And the good news is that they have worked and they're working. I'm very proud to say that it was a Republican president and a Republican-led administration in Congress that pushed forward, that proposed and implemented this really historic initiative in addressing the challenge of reconfiguring our foreign assistance programs, but also addressing specific topics like malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV/AIDS. The PEPFAR program, most of you know what PEPFAR is, but it's the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, was announced in 2003 in a surprise announcement at the State of the Union message on, I think it was January 23rd of that year. And since that period of time, we've made great success, which we'll talk about today.
Well, you know that the PEPFAR experience was maybe my best experience in government. I sat in the Oval Office in late 2002 and watched the President of the United States make the decision to approve the largest initiative to fight a single disease in human history. And the reason he did it, I think, was a combination of two things, knowing him well. One of them is his own religious faith and his belief that every individual has merit and value, that human rights are universal, and I think that's a very strong component for anyone who knows him. The second one is his view of America's place in the world, what we should do and be. And how we can not just fight terror but offer hope, and he's made that clear as well. I had a tremendous sense of history in that meeting, because in the 20th century, in other offices, in other meetings, government meetings, in places like Beijing and Berlin and Moscow, government leaders sat around and calmly discussed genocide and the murder of millions of people. And I got to sit in the Oval Office and watch a principled man make a decision to save the lives of millions of people that will never know his name, and never know that that he's directly responsible for that decision. And I've gotten to see the results. Just in Rwanda, you meet people. I met a little girl named Esther, 10 years old, in a family of 8, both her parents HIV positive. And she's the youngest child, and she's HIV positive. She now, she likes English and math, and she's 6th in her class of 54. And in the absence of that help from America, that family would be a holocaust of despair and loss. It would be, a terrible tragedy repeated millions of times. And it's a tremendous testament to what I think the President has been able to accomplish. I think if historians are fairer than journalists, that the President's going to get a lot of credit for the fact, not just that he almost quadrupled aid to Africa, not just that he more than doubled overseas development assistance, but he did these things in a new way that was results-oriented, that actually worked when it comes to Millennium Challenge or the President's Malaria Initiative or AIDS. And I'll just conclude with one more story, because it indicates the effect that this has, the political effect, the historic effect that this type of initiative can have. I have a good friend at the One campaign who was a few years ago in Zambia at a distant clinic where women had walked for days to get access to the ARVs. My friend asked one woman, "Why did you come?" And her response was, "Because we heard the Americans are coming." And that's what America was when it liberated death camps. That's what America was when it preserved hope for people in the gulags. And that's what America can be today in many ways as it confronts this great crisis.